It's no secret that Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez are great fighters who have both had historic careers. But for the majority of their careers, they have been on unparalleled paths while no one really saw this fight taking place. But now, they're on a collision course to meet in the center of the ring September 13th in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium, live on Netflix. This fight is about legacy, super middleweight supremacy, and currency. Don't get it twisted. This is still prize fighting. But this fight is not just about those things, it's also about something else. For Terence Crawford, his extreme competitiveness and will to win has been seen, heard, and documented throughout his career. For the truly competitive types, it's either win or die. And it's not that you would actually die if you lost, but losing feels like a death, and it's something you would have to relive every day of your life. But I wouldn't know about that. This is one of the other reasons Crawford is taking this fight. He simply does not believe that Canelo Alvarez, or anyone else for that matter, is better than him. But some see this fight as a trap fight, or a fight that Crawford simply cannot win. He sees this as an opportunity and a chance at boxing immortality and to be mentioned amongst the all-time greats forever. Canelo Alvarez is a 20-year vet in the sport of boxing who has had a storied career coming from small beginnings to becoming one of the biggest names the sport has ever seen. He's a fighter who can call his own shots and really fight who he wants to fight. Initially, the fight made no sense to Canelo until it made a lot of sense. And we can thank Turki Al-Sheikh for his help on that. But the truth is, no matter how much money is on the table for Canelo, he too is taking a big risk in a different way. Facing a smaller fighter who is not the average smaller fighter, and Terence Crawford, who is physically strong himself, he's unafraid, he too can punch, and is extremely versatile in the ring. This fight is another opportunity for Canelo to do what great fighters do time and time again. Silence your critics, while proving to yourself and the world, once again, that you are who you say you are. This matchup is not just about legacy, but bigger and better legacy. Let's go into the war room to see how they get it done. One of the biggest questions going into this fight is which stance is Terence Crawford gonna trust the most? I believe Terence Crawford fights equally well from both stances, both right-handed and left-handed. He's naturally right-handed, but in most of his big moments, in his biggest fights, he seems to trust the left-handed stance the most. Southpaws have given Canelo trouble throughout the course of his career. Erislandy Lara comes to mind, and even Austin Trout before Trout got dropped. It's a different look for the right-hander Canelo. He has to project and throw his punches in a different way, and the movements are different. One of the biggest things about this fight that I don't hear anybody talking about is that Canelo Alvarez has to prepare for two different styles, while Crawford, he's just got to prepare for one. Canelo doesn't know if Crawford is going to be right-handed or left-handed, or if he's going to switch midway through the fight. That's something we got to keep an eye on throughout the course of the fight because he's going to constantly keep thinking while Terence Crawford is setting up his shots, getting his game plan in place. Many would say that Terence Crawford historically is a slow starter. It takes him 2 to 3 rounds to get his engine warmed up. I look at it like he's collecting data. He's not in a rush to let his hands go until he's comfortable with his range, where he can deliver punches and not get countered in return. One of the key signs that Terence Crawford has collected enough data to move forward and start to implement his game plan is when he comes off his toes, he's no longer moving as much. He starts to settle down more and he starts to look more offensive. You start to see those heavy, hard punches that he likes to throw land frequently and more often. That's how you know Crawford is settled. He's collected enough data to move forward. One thing about Terence Crawford is when he starts to get comfortable in the ring, you see the eagerness in his body movements as he tries to get in range to land his big shots. He doesn't mind getting into exchanges that seem 50-50, where he takes some to give some. That's been very effective for Crawford throughout the course of his career, but he's got to be careful with Canelo, especially early, because Canelo's fresh and most think that he's the heavier puncher. Crawford needs to be the guy that he's been up until this point, but he's got to be more crafty about it and he's got to take his time before he gets into exchanges, because Canelo Alvarez, if he can do nothing else, he can punch. Terence Crawford has to get his respect from Canelo Alvarez early in this fight. There's two areas that Terence Crawford has to send a message to Canelo. A, he's physically strong, and B, I can hurt you if you get careless. In the clinch is where Crawford lets Canelo know that I'm just as strong, if not stronger than you. Canelo can't be comfortable and feel like he can lift Crawford off his feet or he can bully Crawford around. The other thing that Crawford has to do is somewhere early in this fight, he's got to buzz or hurt Alvarez. So some would say, Canelo Alvarez has never been hurt. I beg to differ. I think Canelo takes a good shot. Great fighters, you can't tell when they're hurt. The facial expression doesn't change. The body language doesn't change. But as long as Terence knows that he was hurt, it's gonna allow Crawford to do the things that he wants to do. Box when he wants to box and fight when he wants to fight. Jeff Horn is similarly built to Canelo Alvarez. The right check hook worked all night long for Terence Crawford. A natural punch that he likes to throw from the left-handed stance. It's where you wait until the last second and you time your opponent as they rush in and you turn out as you're throwing the punch. Most guys throw this hook just as a reset because it makes the opponent have to reset and it gives you time to get away and get your position. But Terence actually throws this punch hard. This is a punch that can actually hurt Canelo, as you see it hurting Jeff Horn right here, still getting the benefits of the reset, but it's also sending a message that I can hurt you if you rush in. The 3.5-inch reach advantage that Terence Crawford has in this fight, I don't think is being discussed enough. Now, Canelo has also made a career out of breaking down taller fighters, getting inside of the longer reach. But this fight is a little bit different. Crawford, he does very good, especially early on, with keeping opponents at the end of his jab and at the end of his long left hands. If Terence Crawford stays under his feet, stays under his legs and controlled, the reach advantage is gonna allow Crawford to set the table so he can eat in the middle and late rounds by landing the bigger shots that he really wants to land. But if Crawford gets anxious, if Crawford is too eager, he can do what he did in the Shawn Porter fight. Shawn Porter was a lot shorter. There was a big reach advantage in that fight as well. Somehow, some way, Shawn Porter is landing right hands in the exchange. He's landing single big shots because Crawford wasn't disciplined with his reach advantage. There's no way that a smaller fighter is supposed to reach you like that, especially early on. I don't think Terence Crawford is gonna do that in this fight. Both Crawford and Canelo have immense respect for each other. So I'm anticipating Terence Crawford being disciplined with his reach. I'm anticipating Crawford being a lot more patient with his offensive approach. He's gonna need to do that against Canelo. For both fighters, body punching is going to be essential. But how do you get the shot through against a sharp, powerful opponent? For Crawford with the longer reach advantage, it's long-range body shots. It's jabs to the stomach. If Terence is right-handed, it's the left jab to the stomach. If he's left-handed, it's the right jab to the stomach. That's what we call steal and win in boxing, is you start to slowly break an opponent down and take their win one body shot at a time. Canelo Alvarez also likes to keep his guard up high and not move his head at times. Terence has to be mindful to not just headhunt, but to be disciplined with jabs to the stomach early on and also sneaking the small body shots in the clinch. You may hear a little grunt from your opponent. That's money in the bank for up the road. Body punching is something that Crawford cannot neglect. Body punching is something that he's gonna need in this fight. For some reason, everybody seems to think that it's only one puncher in this fight. And I understand why. Canelo Alvarez been at 168 a lot longer than Terence. Crawford has been a career 35-pounder. Then he moved up to 40, then he moved up to 47, and he just recently moved up to 154 pounds against Israel Madrimov. A lot of people didn't like that performance from Crawford, and it was his first decision victory since 2017 against Felix Diaz. Is this foreshadowing that Crawford's power is not moving up in weight along with him? Prior to Madrimov, he was on an 11-fight knockout streak. Will the power follow Crawford to 168 pounds? And can Crawford take the power of a full-fledged super middleweight? Regardless of Canelo being perceived as the bigger puncher, he's not the only puncher in this fight. That being said, It's gonna be the accuracy and punch placement from Crawford that's gonna put him in position to land the shot against Canelo that he doesn't see. If Crawford is able to hurt Canelo, he's gonna be merciless with the finish, as Crawford is one of the greatest finishers of this era, and I believe one of the greatest finishers of all time. That's what Crawford has to do to get the job done September 13th.
What's going on, my people? It's your boy Ak, and you know we have an incredible fight coming your way. We had to team up with the best squad in the game, DraftKings. We're talking Canelo, Crawford. Let me get into keys to victory really quick. As far as Canelo, in order to beat a guy like Crawford that is crafty and as busy as him, he has to throw more than 1 or 2 punches at a time, and he has to start early attacking Crawford's body to slow him down, to really land bigger shots midway through that fight. As far as Crawford, he has to be himself and be careful of the big left hook of Canelo. Crawford likes to throw between the shots, and he takes a lot of risks, but that's where he have his most success. And I believe if Crawford is himself and careful, he has a great chance of outboxing Canelo. I promise you guys, you do not want to miss this fight. Even if you're not a hardcore fan, you have to watch this fight. So go to DraftKings, see what they have to offer, and make sure to use the promo code ATSFIGHTS. The crown is yours. With so many different ways to play, DraftKings has something for every sports fan. So staying on the action all night long, go to DraftKings, see what they have to offer via the app or the website. Join in on the fun right now. Go download the DraftKings app right now. Don't forget to use my promo code ATSFIGHTS. Level up your fight night experience.
On September 13th, we'll change boxing history. Netflix brings you the boxing match of the year.
2 worlds, 2 legends collide in the ring.
Canelo Alvarez is the undisputed super middleweight champion, holding every major belt.
Terrence Crawford, undefeated, explosive.
Get ready for the fight that the whole boxing world has been waiting for.
Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Crawford in an epic battle for the undisputed super middleweight championship.
Canelo versus Crawford, Saturday, September 13th, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, live only on Netflix.
Let's move on to Canelo Alvarez. It's gonna be interesting to see what strategy Alvarez applies early in this fight. Will he be his usual self, where he's cutting off the ring, slowly applying pressure and trying to make the ring seem as if it's shrinking? Or will he use a strategy he used against Golovkin early on, where he's respecting the power of his opponent and he'll choose to collect data a different way, with subtle movements around the perimeter of the ring, probing with a jab, but not being overly aggressive? Whatever style Canelo employs early in this fight, he's ultimately gonna settle to being his normal self, which is slowly applying pressure with his hands up high, looking to land big shots and counter if Crawford makes any mistakes. Canelo likes to have maybe 2 or 3 big moments around where he throws 4 or 5 big shots, and because the punches land so heavy, even when they're blocked, this allows him to rest. This allows him to regroup. If Crawford is wise, he'll make Canelo fight when he wants to rest. He'll make Canelo fight when he needs a breather. Canelo's gonna have to come out of his normal punch count and punch more if he's gonna win some of these rounds, because Crawford, once he gets comfortable, is going to be active offensively in this fight. Body punching is just as important for Canelo Alvarez as it is for Terrence. It's a little bit different delivery system for Canelo Alvarez, having the shorter arm. He's got to find ways to touch Crawford early and often in this fight. It doesn't have to be a 3 or 4 punch body combination. Just a small shot here and a small shot there. If we find ourselves in the clinch, we call it stealing wind. Can I get a shot around your guard, get a shot up the middle in your gut that will pay dividends up the road? Body punching is a lost art, but not for Alvarez. He's made a living on being a good inside fighter and a great body puncher. Crawford doesn't move as much as Lara, but you see how Canelo, he would try to hit Erislandy Lara as he was exiting out the door. He's on his way out. Alvarez would meet him at the point and hit him with single body shots as Lara was heading out the door. Doesn't seem like much, but those kind of body shots, trust me, they add up. The money that you deposit in the bank from body shots early on doesn't show right away, but it will show up midway and late in the fight. Smart fighters and great fighters, they know how to make the early investment. Where now all of a sudden your opponent is drained and he doesn't know why. He can't react to punches the way he was early in the fight. Alvarez has to be a great body puncher on the night if he's gonna slow Crawford down and try to set Crawford up for some of his signature big shots. Canelo is very crafty with his defense from the waist up. Typically, he has his feet in place and he has great upper body movement and great anticipation. He has the uncanny ability to sense a shot coming and to not only get under it, but to counter with a big shot. I know what the front page story is. I know what the headline is. Canelo Alvarez is the bigger, harder puncher. But what if Canelo's defense is better than what Crawford expects? What if Crawford can't land the jab or land some of his big shots as easily as he thought he could? This is what you want to do as a fighter. This is why showing your opponent different looks is so essential, because it gives your opponent something else to think about in real time. You can't just be offensive. You can't just be a power puncher. He's got to show Crawford different looks and different feels and put different things on Crawford's mind. And one of them is he's got to be defensively sound. You better believe that Terrence and his team have a whole game plan for a bigger, stronger guy. But are they training for Canelo Alvarez to be slicker, to have better defense than they anticipated? It's just something else they have to deal with. It forces your corner to go earn their money by making adjustments, trying to give you a better game plan. Defense is important, and he also doesn't want to give up too many shots to Terrence Crawford, because if I start to land early and often, what's gonna happen? Crawford's confidence is gonna go up. You'll see Crawford move less and start to punch more. If Terrence Crawford is punching more, that's trouble for Canelo Alvarez, because Crawford sees something. He instinctively feels something, and he senses that it's the right time to go in and try to get his shots through. If he can send the message to Crawford that my defense is better, I'm a lot sharper, I'm a lot more in tune with your offense than you thought, that's something else that Crawford has to process while at the same time trying to implement his own game plan. I want to see if Canelo Alvarez can draw Terrence into a firefight mid-range and in close. Can Canelo Alvarez make Terrence Crawford fight him in a phone booth? Can Canelo draw Terrence into the kind of fight that Terrence typically doesn't fight? Can Canelo Alvarez cut that 3.5-inch reach disadvantage down by convincing Crawford that you should fight me here? If you want this undisputed super middleweight championship, this is where the fight needs to be fought. Can Canelo Alvarez draw Crawford into this space, into this kind of fight? Because we've seen Crawford throw body shots in his previous fight, but we haven't seen him fight in a sustained way, in the pocket, in a phone booth like that. Is Canelo the person to bring that out of Crawford, and can he draw Crawford into that kind of fight? Canelo has perfected the art of the feint. You've seen this throughout the course of his career, but most recently, you see this in his fight with Edgar Berlanga. Canelo looked low as if he was throwing a body shot, but he explodes to the head and drops Berlanga. The difference between Canelo and most fighters is when Canelo feints a fighter out of position, they typically pay with a heavy shot, either a left hook or an overhand right. He makes you pay with power, not just with speed. This is called the art of surprise, and this is a move that I believe Canelo will try to use, but will Terrence allow himself to be feinted out of position. Oftentimes, Canelo is able to be successful with the feint because fighters are afraid to get hit by his power. They felt the power if he's landed clean, or they felt the power on their gloves or on their arms, and they don't want to get hit clean. So anytime Canelo looks like he's gonna do something, he gets an overreaction, they commit, he feints him out of position, bingo, he lands the shot that he wants to land. Not sure it's gonna be that easy against Crawford, but he's certainly gonna try the art of surprise against him. But will he go for it? Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford are not boxer-punchers, they're puncher-boxers. Both fighters can box, but that's not really what they want to do. They want to get close to you and land the shot that's going to change the course of the fight or end the fight. Now, it's a fair point to make that Crawford typically trains at this heavier weight. 170 pounds, 175, even probably as high as 185. But training is different than fighting. I want to see how he moves that extra weight around in the ring. Can Crawford's power carry not just 2, but really 3 weight classes? Can Crawford take the power of Canelo Alvarez? And speaking of Canelo Alvarez, he's only had 3 knockouts in his last 15 fights. Is that age creeping up on Canelo? Is Canelo facing bigger fighters, stronger fighters, and they're able to take the punch? Many people are judging both fighters off their last fights, but you can best believe that Canelo is going to look a lot better against Crawford than he did against Skol. Crawford got a lot of heat coming off of his last fight against Madrimov, with many saying, if you can't stop a 154-pounder, how are you going to hurt or stop the Iron Chin Canelo Alvarez? We can't judge either fighter fully off of their last fights because the old adage will ring true in this case, that great fighters will rise to the occasion when the competition gets stiff. We've gone through what makes both fighters great and what each has to do to get their hand raised. There's nothing else to say. The only thing left to do is to settle it September 13th in Las Vegas. For me, it's one of the biggest fights of this era. It's a lot of risk on the table, but there's also a lot of reward. And that's what fight fans should want. And sound off in the comments and let me know who your pick is. And remember, don't try to switch up come Sunday morning. Make your pick and stand on it. Peace out. That's the Ward Room.